The behavior of the players during the tournament, as well as the fans during the tournament, are just emblematic of the type of people that Argentinians actually are. What's up, everybody? What's on the menu? Back at again with another video, and this time we're here to talk about the World Cup. And as always, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this video, don't forget to like the video if you like it, don't if you don't. If you like more social media and pop culture related topics like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And without further ado, let's get started. This past Sunday, July 19th, the 2026 World Cup tournament finally concluded with Spain being the winner of the whole tournament. The tournament took place across several stadiums across North America and invited several nations across the globe, including Haiti, Cape Verde, it being their first tournament ever, and Norway, Spain, Argentina, Portugal, US, and many other big countries. The tournament concluded with a bunch of events either adjacent to the tournament itself or happening during the tournament. There are actually some things I'd like to point out and talk about. First of all, I just want to say congrats on Haiti and Cape Verde for making it into the tournament. I know Haiti's been there before, but they're making another appearance. And Cape Verde, this is their first ever World Cup appearance, so it's nice to see that a smaller nation like them was able to make it to the tournament, because I know a lot of smaller nations usually don't get the opportunity to make it to such a large stage, and they perform quite well. The Cape Verdean goalkeeper, Vozinha, saw a large jump in his Instagram followers following his debut in the World Cup tournament. He initially started with something like 40-something thousand followers before the tournament, and it's ballooned to over 18 million at this point since I started recording. It's nice to see a lesser known player like him get so much shine on the world stage because his talents are shining through. And the tournament also saw a lot of camaraderie with the Scottish people and fans integrating well with the people of Boston, who they were hosting for a few games. When the Scottish people were interviewed, they were basically saying that their vision of America was not like they believed it was on TV, and that the way in which they felt integrating with the Boston people while watching sports games was the camaraderie they felt accustomed to and were always yearning for, especially for being sports fans of an international phenomenon like soccer. And it's nice to see people in real life living instead of consuming all their information from a screen, because it shows that just because you see certain things on the screen doesn't mean those things are going to be true. And a lot of fans from internationally who had to fly into the US, though they were scared for justifiable reasons, found that the American people aren't exactly what the media portrays them to be in their countries at times. Also, shout out to Lamine Yamal for winning the World Cup with Spain, being one of the youngest to do it, and his great work on the pitch. Keep it up. Even though a lot of positive and heartwarming things happened during the World Cup tournament, there are some things that happened that were hard to ignore that we actually have to address. One of the things I heard about before the tournament even started was how FIFA denied Haiti's request for their original World Cup jerseys. You may be asking yourself, what was so controversial that Haiti had on their jerseys that made FIFA want to deny their ability to have the original jerseys as their World Cup jerseys? Well, I'll let you know. On the screen is the original design for the Haiti national football team's jerseys. It's clearly labeled with a blue coloring with red accents on the sleeves as well as the collar, and on the bottom left corner of the shirt, you can see a group of men surrounded by a flag, holding it in glory. And this is actually supposed to be a nod to one of the battles for Haitian independence. And for anyone wanting a brief summary on the independence of Haiti, the Haitian Revolution, also known as the Haitian War of Independence, was a successful insurrection by enslaved Africans against French colonial rule in Saint-Domingue, now the sovereign state of Haiti. The revolution was one of the only known slave rebellions in human history that led to the founding of a state which was both from slavery, though not from forced labor, and ruled by former captives. So, in short, the enslaved people were able to successfully overthrow the people who were enslaving them and create their own nation as a result, which is a pretty dope symbol to put on your national team's jersey. So the question being, if a team is basically showing their national pride by having a piece of their history on their jersey, what is so wrong about FIFA not wanting that on their jersey and having them deny the request to have it there? FIFA themselves said they denied the jersey because the statement on it was too political. Seda, the manufacturer of the jersey, said in a statement that it would comply with the ban even though the design was not intended to be a political statement, but rather as a tribute to the men and women who contribute every day to Haiti's future. What's interesting is that FIFA said that the jersey itself was too political, but a lot of things about the World Cup could be considered political, but we'll get to that topic when we go to the 2 cents section of the video. Another interesting thing I found about the World Cup that was putting things on full display for a lot of other nations was the unapologetic bits of racism that were sprinkled in from various nations across the World Cup. One instance in particular I can think of was when a Paraguayan senator named Celeste Amaria had some negative comments towards Kylian Mbappe and how he was playing in the French versus Paraguay game, and as a result she took to Twitter and verbally berated him by saying, Colonized Cameroonian, pretending hard to be French, resentful, newly rich, arrogant, and ugly. He was nervous and scared to death the whole match, like his entire team. They couldn't even score a goal. They won by a fluke. The only thing many of us demanded of the Albiroja is not to have slapped him open-handed after the match ended, and that's despite not being a soccer fan. She then continued to drill into Mbappe and made some terribly racist comments like this. Bruto didn't even learn to write. Instead of mother's milk, he sucked on coconuts, and the most educated thing he heard were chimpanzees. You should have shown him the finger, Orlando Gill. I do it in the Senate and nothing happens. So, I don't know if anyone else realizes this, but this is a government official for the country of Paraguay, and she's saying she throws the middle finger up in the Senate all the time and nothing happens. I don't know why she would think that's something to brag about, but on top of that, she was also being unapologetically racist to this man because of a soccer game. Wow, this is just sad, but this woman just has some problems. The fact that she holds a position of power like this and can just say this stuff out loud on public is just even sadder, but this is what Kylian Mbappe had to say about her statements. Madame Celeste Amarilla, you are a despicable woman and unworthy of your position. You do not represent Paraguay, that country which has sweated passion and honor throughout the competition. Through your recklessness and your brazen racism, the entire world has already forgotten the journey and the historic effort that your players accomplished during the World Cup, making way for an incompetent woman who gives the worst possible image of her country. I will never allow people like her the freedom to spread their hatred and racism across the world. Just want to say, well said by Mr. Kylian Mbappe. I know, things get heated between players during the tournament, and generally it is all love for the competition of the game, but when you start veering into territories of racism and bigotry, I think that throws any camaraderie you have for soccer outside the window and starts to make things a lot more vile than they need to be. It's sad to see, though, a big event like the World Cup has brought a lot of nations together for a harmonious cause, play soccer to see who the best nation is to win. People can sour the moment by making things a lot more harsh, by bringing race and unnecessary issues into the subject. I think another issue that a lot of people are seeing, where even though the runner-up to the competition was Argentina because they were the past winner last World Cup and they're actually a pretty good soccer team, it was unfortunate as a lot of their fans had a terrible reputation across the globe as to how they were interacting with people during the tournament. Popular IRL streamer IShowSpeed appeared at many of the World Cup matches to watch them go on. While spectating the game during a few of his appearances, Argentinian fans began getting rowdy and shouting racial insults at him. Not only that, they also began throwing drinks and other forms of items to antagonize him further. Instances like this became so severe that FIFA actually had to investigate for instances of racism throughout the Argentinian fan base. A lot of people would say that they're appalled at this type of behavior, but unfortunately Argentina has a long history of having behavior like this be kind of part of their brand, while also have a history of not liking black people. In addition to the fact that they're the only World Cup team without any players of African descent on their roster, Argentina was one of 3 countries that denied the devastatingly large impact that the transatlantic slave trade had on the world, the other 2 being the US and Israel. They also have a history of anti-black sentiments spread throughout their political history and their history in general. And when a country breeds anti-black sentiments for decades, then those aspects of their culture will inevitably spill out while they're on the world stage. Unfortunately, Argentina's terrible past and behavior during the World Cup tournament will stick in people's minds for years to come. And hopefully they can change and adapt, but that'll take years to come as well. Last but not least, I want to talk about the US and things that they did in this World Cup that were questionable, at least, and straight disrespectful. As a result, many cities increased the capabilities of their infrastructure meant for transportation, as well as got ready for other things like tourism and influx of guests. One of the flaws for the organizing of the World Cup that a lot of people were seeing before the tournament even started were the hiking and fare costs for certain venues. Round-trip fare prices for some of the venues at the World Cup were as high as 12 times the normal round-trip price. A lot of these fare hikes are done because FIFA isn't willing to shell out the money to a lot of these venue distributors who are creating the infrastructure for this World Cup to take place. And in order to make that money back, they offset that price onto the customers / the participants of the World Cup, so the increased commerce can get them the money back that they're using to pay for all these improvements that they're making to their city and area in order to accommodate World Cup tourism. And it's sad but not surprising to see the US use that model of having to offload the costs of such an interesting And it's interesting but not unsurprising that the US would offset the cost of the large amount of money spent on the tournament to take it out of the fans who were spending the money to go to the tournament in the first place. To put it into perspective, Germany, Qatar, and Russia all contributed free transportation for their tournament goers. They all provided access to transportation for free for tournament goers during days of the tournament, which allowed them to seamlessly navigate throughout the different stadiums that they were going to attend for the matches. What makes it even crazier is that Russia provided free transportation even though they are a lot bigger than the US in terms of size. The funny thing is, or not so funny thing, is that they actually reduced the ticket prices because the prices in the US were so high compared to what they initially had them for before the World Cup. And something as minute as that kind of ruins the whole experience for a lot of people. Think about all the people who wanted to attend the World Cup, but they had to take into consideration how much they had to pay for the hotels, the transportation, the food, and other things of that nature when they're traveling, because a lot of those things add up. And this World Cup wasn't cheap by any means. A lot of the tickets were selling for the thousands during the first few ticket sales, which made it a lot harder for a lot of people to participate, even if you lived in the country. So imagine having to fly out from another country that wasn't America to even come in here. Another thing that made it difficult was that visas weren't as readily available because of the current administration we have in office. I know people try to do things for our protection, but there's a point where protection becomes overprotection and it's doing more harm than good, especially for a tournament like this where the whole world is supposed to be coming together, but you currently are in beefs with other nations, or you're actively discriminating against other people, preventing them from being able to experience the World Cup as it's meant to be. Not only that, but you're the host country of the World Tournament, but you're actively going to war with one of the participants of the tournament, which makes them be put in a rough spot, which is Iran, if you didn't know the country I was referring to. Slightly before the World Cup began, US had invaded the country along with Israel. Due to the ongoing war prior to the tournament, Iran was actually skeptical as to whether or not they were going to participate, but ended up doing so. The unfortunate fact was they were originally supposed to be stationed in Tucson, Arizona for their warm-up and training facilities, but they had to get relocated to Mexico because of their ongoing tensions with the US, because the US, for whatever reason, couldn't guarantee the safety of the Iranian players while participating in the tournament. So not only is their home country not only at the time of the tournament was their home country being attacked by the United States, they were also suspected to be staying in the United States, but because of the war, couldn't and had to stay in a neighboring country like Mexico, who opened the doors to them. Not only that, Iran also had another specialty, another special circumstance to them being in the tournament. So due to the fact that they were Iranian, they were able to play in the US but not be housed in the US, and right as soon as the game ends, they were supposed to leave to go back to their hotel in Mexico, or their training facility in Mexico, that same day, which means you could play a 90-minute game of pure soccer, and instead of going straight home that's maybe 30 minutes, an hour away, you had to be bused, shuttled, flown out all the way back to Mexico from wherever you are. So if you were if you were in Gillette Stadium, that's pretty close to Boston, Massachusetts, that's at least a 3-4 hour flight that you have to hop on a plane after playing a whole game of soccer. I know teams do that all the time when you're playing other teams, if you're doing road games or whatever, but this is an international tournament where you're playing in the first beginning stages, you're playing a lot of games in a short succession of time, which means you're not getting a lot of time to recover if you have to hop on a plane every time you finish a game of soccer. So to be fair, not saying they did bad, but it's not surprising they weren't able to surpass past the group stage. But let me just wrap all this up in my 2 cents section. The World Cup put a lot of things on display during this tournament, which some people were aware of and other people were not, but overall it exposed a lot of things about how the world thinks about certain aspects that you may not be privy to, and open your eyes to see that maybe not people aren't as different as you may think, or we may be more similar than we realize. But we're going to go back down a list of topics with my thoughts and then finish up the video. I know this is a long one, but it's been a while. I've had my thoughts on the World Cup for a while. I just wanted to get this out while it's still fresh in people's memories, and we can have a discussion about things that could be altered to help create a better tournament and atmosphere for all. So let's get into it. First, let's talk about the tribute to the Haitian national team's jersey with the Haitian Revolution and the March for the fight for independence, as well as it being too political. So The statement, it being too political, does make sense because it is the Haitian people celebrating the advocacy in which they used to fight for their freedom. Obviously, the jersey maker said it's more of a celebration of the future of the men and women of Haiti, which I could also see that being the case. But in saying that it was too political, kind of allows FIFA to ignore a big elephant in the room when it comes to the whole tournament itself. As I mentioned during the last segment of the issues that I found with the FIFA tournament, they were able to allow United States, the host country for the tournament, to basically displace another tournament goer, Iran, because of the ongoing war in the tournament. So by ignoring a big war that's happening in the world, but allowing the United States to kind of go untreated in how they are able to treat the participants of the tournament while also waging war with them, it seems as though you're ignoring a huge political red flag, and it kind of doesn't make sense for them to say that Haiti's jerseys of them representing their culture and their past is too political. But then when another country is literally bombing and killing, I know this is kind of graphic, but doing all those horrific things to another country who is a participant of the tournament, but you turn a blind eye, it just shows that you're being hypocritical in the values that you hold dear. In the grand scheme of things, if we're going to be honest, the Haitian Revolution happened as a need to not want to be subjugated and under the thumb of an oppressive ruler. So they're celebrating the fact that they were able to get their independence from that ruler and become their own nation, while the United States is waging war on another country for reasons related to, I'll put it up right here, but reasons that are more selfish than altruistic in a sense. And the FIFA committee doesn't say anything about that or how that's a problem for Iran, or doesn't do anything about it, because the best they did was displace them to a whole different country and make it more of an inconvenience. They have to travel to and fro two different countries in order to play their matches. Next, we have Senator Celeste Amaria and Mbappe. So I don't know what's wrong with this lady, because she's a senator and she's so bold and brazen to say that she puts her middle finger up in the Senate all the time and there's no issue, and says all these horrible things about Mbappe over a soccer match. There's audio of him saying some bad words in Spanish. Obviously, he plays in Real Madrid, so he knows Spanish. He's multilingual. He knows English, French, Spanish, probably a few other languages that I'm not privy to, but he has a very good grasp of a few languages. So for whatever reason, he uttered some inappropriate Spanish words during the Paraguay versus French match, and a lot of people are saying that he's a bad mouth and he deserves all the racist insults coming his way. But what a lot of people are not acknowledging is that I watched some clips from that game, and it was a very chippy game in terms of it was very physical. And soccer, physicality does happen from time to time of players, bumping into each other, but it's not a very big aspect of the sport. Like football is more contact heavy, and so is basketball, but soccer is not so much. So apparently the Paraguayan team was playing a lot more aggressive and intense than other teams have. So French was kind of giving it back to them. And, some of those aggressive tendencies didn't show up in just actions, but they showed up in words as well. So Mbappe decided to play the game that Paraguay was playing and exchange some words with the Paraguayan team as well. And for that reason, the fans of the Paraguayan team, as well as people who want to use racism as a scapegoat, thought that the words that he uttered were unacceptable, even though they don't know the reaction that caused him to say those words. And on top of that, just because he ignored the goalie to not shake his hand, a lot of people thought of that as justification to be racist towards him as well. People are saying that he didn't see the goalie in a fit of passion. I don't know how legitimate that is, but I don't think anything he did during that tournament was justifiable in the response of racism that he got from a senator who holds a position in a state's, in a country's government. Like, that is disgusting behavior. He is 100% spot on for calling her out and saying that she's just not a representative of the Paraguayan people. Because if I was a Paraguayan and my politician that represented me in any capacity was an open racist, I would not want to be represented by that individual, and I would not want to be associated with that individual. What blows my mind is that while I was digging for the tweets that the senator was making about killing Mbappe on her Twitter, she's just reposting and retweeting a bunch of racist and negative things that people are saying or doing about Mbappe or black people in general. And it's honestly so disgusting that she holds this position of power in Paraguay. I hope she gets her seat removed from her, because this type of behavior is so disgusting, and the fact that it's normalized is even worse. And the thing that I found even more appalling is that I went on her Twitter bio, or X bio, whatever you want to call it, and it shows on there that she's Jewish. So you're telling me that you're Jewish, you understand the harm that has been done to your people in the past, and how negative it can be to have your group of people stigmatized to such a degree that people have negative associations of you, and you still continue to perpetuate this silliness, this hatred, this bigotry onto somebody because of a soccer match, because they didn't shake someone's hand, because they had some choice words for someone who was giving them choice words to begin with. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And she's trying to make light of the fact that they're racist to black people in Paraguay, and that and that she's like being championed as someone who says these crass but quote unquote true things about somebody. And it's just, this type of behavior is so disgusting. Like, it shows a lot of similarities to how the current US president acts, and it's just so disgusting to see a politician who's supposed to be the best of you act with such disgrace, dishonor, racism, bigotry, and be so open and proud about it. It's just so weird. It's like, these are people who should not be politicians or hold any positions of power. I have to say this because people are just thinking this is normal. I hate seeing this. As a kid, I thought politicians had all the answers, but then I'm just seeing them act like complete idiots in the public eye, and I'm like, I can't stand to watch this. This is so bad. The fact that anybody champions this or is supporting these people is absolutely insane. I know some establishments in France and FIFA are looking into the statements made by this woman, because they realize that she's being so openly racist, and this is not something that they're taking lightly, which I'm glad, because this isn't something that should be taken lightly. It's good that they're doing something about it. I know I was talking about harping on FIFA about undermining the history and the passion behind the Haitian national team's Independence Day tribute on their jersey, but I'm just glad they're actually taking action upon this racism and bigotry that this woman is spewing as a public official. And I hope, and it's also good because I know the country of Paraguay actually condemned her statements as well, and saying that she doesn't represent them, which is good that they're condemning her actions. But in a small part, the fact that a public official is able to say this so openly on a public platform and not reconsider her words is kind of emblematic of the type of people that you are to some degree, because on top of that, she still has those comments up on her Twitter. She hasn't removed them. I'm looking at them at 7/20/2026, and she still has those comments up almost 3+ weeks after she initially made them, and after receiving the backlash. She's clearly unapologetic about her words. So it's sad that a politician / public official is able to be so bold about their hatred and bigotry. And finally, we have the unfortunate behavior of the Argentinian fans during this World Cup, which I gotta say, like I said previously, it's on par for them. They have an unfortunate history of doing stuff like this and being anti-black for quite some time in their country's history, and it's spewing out into the world stage now that the world of social media and instant connection with people all over the world is quite common nowadays. Like, stuff like that wasn't something you would see if you didn't know about it. You know, if they're doing a tour of Argentina, they're not going to tell you things like that because they want you to come and see the country and tour it. But if you actually go there as, a black person, or you talk to the experiences of black people, look at the country's history with black people, all the signs point to the fact that they do not, and I'll say this again, they do not really mess with black people like that. And it's unfortunate because we got to see it firsthand with how they treated streamer IShowSpeed during his visits to matches with Argentinian fans present, while also them not having any African or black players on their national team. Not saying they don't, or they haven't in the past had black players, but to have a World Cup with so many black players on other teams and then be the only one, it kind of just sticks out like a sore thumb if you think about it. To make it all worse, Argentina and Spain was the final match of the World Cup. Though the match was tight and it ended up being a 1-0 win by Spain. Towards the end of the match, Argentina ended up getting very physical with the Spanish players, so much so that some were even throwing elbows, punches, and even pushing other players to the ground, clearly showing that they were sore losers. And on top of that, Spanish players were seen hoisting the trophy for the World Cup, and the Argentinian players were disrespectfully having their backs towards the Spanish players while they were being celebrated for their victory. So not only is Argentina a sore loser and have a very racist past that has been very present in the World Cup with how their fans interact with other people around the World Cup, but the players kind of echoed that sentiment of how terribly behaved the Argentinian players actually are. Argentina won the last World Cup and everyone was impressed because Lionel Messi is their best player and he's been known as one of the GOATs of soccer for a long time now. So the fact that he was able to win a World Cup showed how good the Argentinian team was, and a lot of people were happy for them. Now that a new team has come and taken their spot, not only can they not be happy for that team, but they can't even take the loss with dignity, and they have to end literally swinging on the other team. And this is soccer, where swinging elbows and punches like that is not allowed at all. The behavior of the players during the tournament as well as the fans during the tournament are just emblematic of the type of people that Argentinians actually are. To be present on the world stage and not try to put your best foot forward, especially when other people try to show courtesy to you while you're at the top of your game and you can't do that for other people, it's kind of sad to see that they can't show respect both ways and they're only willing to receive it and not willing to give it. Last but not least, I actually want to talk about the fare issue that the U.S. decided to implement on the fare increase that they decided to implement on all the tournament goers of the World Cup. So what's interesting is that, as I previously stated, Russia, Qatar, and Germany had all hosted the World Cup in the past and were able to provide pre-transportation for the goers of the tournament to, allow easy access and make the transition from one stadium to another very fluid, very easy, and a lot less stressful, not having to pay for it. So tell me why the richest country in the world, who's hosting the biggest sporting event, if not one of the biggest sporting events in the world, next to the Olympics, is not deciding to use this opportunity to give their country good PR by not hiking the ever-living daylights out of the prices of everything around the World Cup. Because in doing that, you're only making it harder for yourself to benefit from the increase in tourism. Because if everything's so expensive that people do not want to make money, people are going to be less inclined to spend money around the area. If you're spending $80 round trip in order to pay for the transportation to and from the stadium, then why would you spend the extra $20 in your pocket to buy a meal if the train already ate up the majority of the money you planned on spending that day? It doesn't make any sense. These people who are running the show, I know they're upset that FIFA's not paying for it, but FIFA made a good point when they said that when they host events in the United States, let's say if you go to MetLife for a Jets game or Giants game, I forget whichever team plays there, the New York Jets or Giants are not the ones who are funding the bill for the transportation for you to go to and from the stadium. You pay for that out of pocket, which makes sense. So it doesn't make sense for the people hosting FIFA to ask them to pay for the tournament. Because if you want to host and you don't have the infrastructure for that, you could also, devil's advocate say FIFA's being cheap, which I wouldn't agree with you either, but it kind of sucks that if you knew that was part of the bill, why would you try to ask FIFA to pay for that? The developments you're doing to your country are for the benefit of the tournament, and they're probably going to have long-lasting effects that are going to benefit the country as well. But if you're not going to put the money in it yourself and you're kind of offloading the cost to the people who are going to be using the service, it kind of just is going to make it harder for other things to thrive as a result, because you're forcing people to pay for something that they weren't initially supposed to pay for, and now you're making it harder for other things to thrive as a result, which means people are only going to keep their money to themselves. It's not going to increase commerce, and it's only going to negatively affect people. If they decided to use that money for something else, buy some local meal, stimulate the economy in other ways, it'd probably be better for everybody. But by hiking the prices up, it's really not benefiting you as much as you think it is. But yeah, at the end of the day, I just want to say those are my 2 cents. But let me know, what are you guys' thoughts on the whole World Cup? But at the end of the day, those are my 2 cents. What are your guys' thoughts on the whole World Cup? Do you think it's a beautiful tournament for people to harmonize and forget their troubles of the world and come together and just enjoy the game of soccer? Or do you think it's more political than the people are making out to be, and they brought a lot of issues to light that people weren't aware of? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Deuces.